Aggressive Retsuko Season 3 is a real mixed bag. It starts off with Retsuko renting a car to help her mom out, and then she accidentally backs up into the van of a producer of a local underground idol group. And after he overhears her singing at karaoke, he decides to basically make her part of the idol group called OTM. I skipped over a whole bunch of shit, but it doesn't really matter because Retsuko being in OTM is basically the main plot of the season. And this is another season where we get to see Retsuko sort of come to terms with her adult life and try and figure out what she wants to do with her life. And she spends most of the season getting on board with becoming an idol. A lot of the season is dedicated to her learning to accept herself and not so much care what other people think, while also learning to put herself out there more. And joining the idol group OTM Girls really helps her in that regard. There is also a subplot with Haida meeting a local girl at their office who has a thing for him, and he starts kind of hanging out with her, but they're not really dating. Now, the opening of the season involves Retsuko getting into a lot of debt, partially due to backing into the guy, but also the amount of money that she is in debt is the same amount of money she absolutely wastes in, like, the first episode. So it is basically a case of her mismanaging her money that is the cause of this entire season. And it does get back from the absurdities of season 2, where she was dating the billionaire, with getting into more office drama and how she doesn't want to put her burdens on her friends, even though she ends up sort of burdening them regardless. But yeah, getting back to the office drama, which was what made season 1 so good, was good. But then when the show fully committed to OTM, I was reluctant, but I have to say it turned out for the best. And Retsuko joining this idol group ended up actually becoming a very good source of story and plot and character development. With Haida moving on to this new girl and hanging out with her as he's essentially learning to let Retsuko go, it seemed like the entire show was starting to progress far away from what made it one of the top anime back in season 1, but at least it wasn't getting stuck in the status quo. And then, just like this, Retsuko needs to learn how to use a guitar, so she goes to Haida, who was a bass player, which is not the same thing and is acknowledged in the show, but it ends up dragging him away from this new girl he's sort of hanging out with and getting back on that Retsuko train. And I have to say that at this point, the relationship between Haida and Retsuko is not just the worst part of Aggretsuko as a whole. It is genuinely a blight on the entire series that is actively making it worse. I would give this a higher grade were this aspect of the show not to be in it. Because what this relationship does is that Haida pivots away from this girl he's been hanging out with, and he ends up trying to get back with Retsuko, who ends up getting stalked by a crazy stalker fan who tries to kill her. And what ends up happening is she leaves OTM, goes back to her office job, and Haida is still pursuing her, despite the fact that she's made it clear that she is not interested. And this relationship continues to be the absolute worst part of Aggretsuko because it actively worsens the character of Haida and Retsuko. Now, granted, Retsuko ends up looking a lot better than Haida does, because when this relationship was originally set to sail at the end of season 1, it was revealed in We Wish You a Metal Christmas, of course, that Retsuko forced Haida to confess to her, despite the fact that he didn't want to, only to turn him down, which is sort of a needlessly cruel action. But I will say that as far as this relationship drama, that's sort of Retsuko's last affront, because at that point she has made her feelings clear that she is uninterested in Haida, and Haida being stuck on her for every season past that and unable to move past that to the point where he ends up leading on this other girl actively makes him look worse, even worse as the series goes on. He even goes so far as to like stalk her through Hokkaido and stuff. And then when she's sort of recovering from being attacked by her stalker, he like drags her off and like screams his feelings in her face. And at this point, like, you have to go with what Retsuko says to him during this, which is, your feelings are not my responsibility, because they're not. It's gone from, like, Haida being a sort of, like, secret admirer who has a thing, and, like, sure, she coerced a confession out of him and turned him down. That was really scummy. But from that point on, the second that it's clear that she is uninterested, Haida's continued insistence and almost, like, forceful pursuit to the point of stalking her that has gone on from season 2 onward and into season 3 continuously reflects poorly on his character. And it is a relationship that I don't, despite the fact that the show is pushing for it, I do not want to have happen, because it would actively worsen both characters. Both characters would benefit greatly from not being involved in a relationship with each other. Haida needs to move on to another girl. Retsuko needs to get her shit together. And the fact that the season builds up so much development across all of the characters, only to revert to the status quo right at the end of the season, ends up basically undoing the whole goodwill of this whole show, especially because it's not fully clear why Retsuko left OTM at the end. It seems like this entire season was pointless, because at the end we just end up right back where we started. The only real difference is that the millionaire guy is helping out Gory, which is a neat little plot line. But if this season shows me anything, it's that I think Haida would be a better match with Gory. Like, I jumped on a fucking ship that didn't even exist. I'm like, Haida and Gory, make it happen, baby. But yeah, no, this season just straight up was doing well, and then it shot itself in the dick. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic. Your Envoy of Hope. Bye-bye.